Hey, what's up? You're listening to the Line Sports Talk podcast. It is Wednesday, December 21st, 2016. This is our Daily Fantasy Builder edition, one day early. Again, sound issues, so without wasting any time, we're going to jump right into it. I got Harbor Mike in the office, or at least on the line again tonight. Harbor Mike, say hi to our friends out there.
What's up, our friends out there?
Our friends out there are listening. They are tuned in, and they are hoping to pick up some information. I think last week, as much as it was a tough week, I don't think we did too bad. I know I managed to salvage a few things in the 4 o'clock and in the Saturday or the Sunday, Monday matchups that we jumped into. And I looked at a few things here as well coming into this upcoming week. Most of the games are on Saturday, Christmas Eve, December 24th, same place it is every year. But if anybody out there hasn't noticed yet, don't sleep through Saturday, wake up Christmas Day, and think that you're going to get 15 games to watch, because you sure aren't. You're going to have the majority. The bulk of it's on Saturday. Some good games. Some real good games, actually. Some division matchups, some things that mean something. But last week was as tough as it got for quarterbacks. Quarterbacks in some real bad matchups, and that I know that killed me. I'm still licking my wounds over a standard league loss that I'm seriously licking my wounds, man. It's killing me. I had a great team all year long, and Tom Brady laid an egg. I saw it coming all week. You knew he wasn't going to do anything but turn around and hand the ball off or dink and dunk to the Deion Lewises of the world. So that really stuck me in the standard league that I'm in. But it was a tough week for quarterbacks last week. Some other position players later on in the show we're going to talk about have some really tough matchups this week. So this is changing everything for the chalk in my eyes. So coming up in the show, we're going to have a few other things to talk about in that regard. But I want to get us kicked off with a little full disclosure. I know that I was able to make some cash back on the daily fantasy plays last week, but I had a handful of hits that saved my ass and a whole bunch of misses. I whiffed on a few of them there, Mike. I tell you what, buddy, it was a lot like walking up to the plate, Roger Clemens on the hill, dealing, and 3 flamethrower fastballs right down the middle. I listened to the glove pop 3 times and sat down, and those 3 times were Drew Brees, Brandon Cooks, and every other New Orleans Saint.
Yeah, when I look at my lineups, pretty much if I can have the 20 points from Brandon Cooks added on to one of my wide receivers, and then the 17 that I didn't get from my quarterback, that's 37 points. That takes my 135 to 172. And
yeah, that's right.
I won $1,000.
Yeah, it was tough watching the Drew Brees attack. We really dogged him, but he stuck us like 3 weeks in a row. He really stuck us. So I know both you and I were off the bandwagon, and I think we learned a valuable lesson. But at some point or another, no matter what, you still have to pay attention to that matchup. Arizona hasn't been great defensively. Brees, 2 bad games. Is he going to have a third one? Is he going to go throw 3 picks for the 3rd time in a row? This guy's a Hall of Famer. No, he's not. We missed, and I missed, and that was a whiff. That was a big-time whiff for me.
Yeah, I would have to say, considering he pretty much was the only quarterback that really went off. So obviously you're not winning anything substantial if you didn't have him.
No, aside from him and a Matt Barkley, which we'll get into him a little bit later on as well. Yeah, Brees was the only one. Cooks was the only one who had a massive day as wide receiver. I'll tell you what, while we're on the topic of whiffs, let me cough up a couple for the sake of full disclosure here. I really liked Antonio Gates against the Raiders last week. That was a full whiff. They shut him down.
Yeah, I like that. I did that stack, and that was one of mine with Phillip Rivers being high on him. Like I said, I took a shot just on both him and Alex Smith. So,
yeah.
If I could crack the code of the quarterbacks, I would be doing real well these last 3 weeks. I've pretty much matched or stayed on pace at the other positions. Just really missing those 20 points that I'm not getting from the quarterback position. At least
sure, and this is the week to put it all together. I also missed big time on Larry Fitzgerald. I really thought that going forward, everything pointed to Fitz having a monster day, potentially his last home game there with the Arizona Cardinals. Maybe in his entire career, there's a likelihood he will retire. They definitely looked his direction, but that game was such a high-scoring affair, I thought for sure that against that Saints defense, this guy goes off. He had 7 catches, 57 yards. He put the ball on the ground one time. Fitz doesn't do that. So that one stung a little bit for me, and I know that I had Larry Fitzgerald in every single one of my lineups in that time slot. Every single one.
I think the problem there is that team now is just a shell of what they used to be.
Yeah, they sure
last year and the year before. So I think it's one of those that you really want to stay away from anyone on that team not named David Johnson, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And then, conversely, let's go to the positive side of our disclosure here. Did have a couple hits, and I want to point something out to the listener, to you, to everybody out there. The hits I got were really peculiar because it was the 4 o'clock time slot. I love these small time slots. I can't stress it enough. When you only have a few games to choose from, you have potential. I lost my ass in the 1 o'clock games. In the 4 o'clock time slot, I won it all back and then some, simply because we had a small game schedule and none of these teams scored. They were low-scoring games, a little bit of back and forth. I think the Raider game was 19-16. The Patriots-Broncos game was 16-3. Just not a lot of points. My biggest scorer in my 4 o'clock time slot was LeGarrette Blount at 9.1 points. And I think that particular team in a single entry won $30. Yeah, $10 entry.
I've been staying away. Like I said, I've been going for the bigger payouts. So
sure.
They're not friendly unless you obviously hit the code.
Yeah, when you're entering those, it's really all or nothing, or occasionally you just get your money back on them. On the $10 single entries, they're great. They're usually smaller contests, and they do have a nice. I think that one's probably like $1,000 payout when it's all said and done. But if you can just sniff into it and triple your money, there's nothing wrong with it. The beauty of that 4 o'clock time slot, Sebastian Janikowski was one of the highest scoring players at 15 points. I think the highest scoring player in that time slot was the New England Patriots defense at 17. Sadly, that's what you want.
That's where one of my strengths was. I started Nick Novak in every lineup, and he was a 15er as well.
Yeah, we definitely hit on Nick Novak last week as well. That was a good lineup. But, it was a bad day, but it worked out for us. I mean, sometimes Taylor Gabriel in the 1 o'clock time slot would have been my only hit for the 1 o'clock time slot.
I don't like to call mine hits. It's in the wide receiver positions, only because I'm still looking at that glaring Brandon Cooks. But pretty much I was competitive because, like we established, nobody really went off. So, I started Taylor Gabriel. J.J. Nelson kept you in the game. Tyreek Hill kept you in the game. Jordy kept you in the game. So if you hit, and they were kind of obvious, but if you were able to work them in your lineups, all my running backs were David Johnson, Devonta Freeman, or LaShawn McCoy.
Right.
So,
and DJ Johnson had a huge day. So did LaShawn.
Oh, they both did. Devonta Freeman had an awesome game. If you had Devonta Freeman and LaShawn McCoy,
you won some money.
Yeah.
You did. You absolutely did.
And then with the guys that are less expensive provided some points this week. If Brandon Cooks didn't happen, we both, it sounds like, we'd be looking at some real big money.
Sure, because the David Johnson with LaShawn McCoy, I did have that coupled in plenty of places, but it gave you the room, it gave you the necessity to have some cheaper wide receivers and tight ends, less expensive other positions. But those guys didn't play bad at all in the cheaper spots. You got 15 points out of Taylor Gabriel. You got those things, so there was value in all the cheaper wide receivers last week as well.
Well, I think you're seeing come on is the weather. The weather's playing a factor.
Sure is.
That the cold weather ball is changing offenses. So I like, that's again with this week, and we'll get to it here in a while, but I like certain offenses based upon, they might not be the spread, high spread, high scoring, but they have, it seems like they're going to shift to the running game. And so that's what you're seeing. You're seeing this effect of, that's why.
Yes and no. I think the other side of that is these quarterbacks just had tough matchups. I mean, Brady's going against the best pass defense in the NFL last week on the road. And, weather certainly played a factor there, but just bad matchups. You can look around all of the NFL last week, and it just didn't make sense. Derek Carr played in San Diego.
Yeah,
there's a whole issue there. Matt Stafford had a big challenge against the New York Giants. That weather was 55 degrees at game time in New York. That's just a real good defense. And, boy, on the Pick'em show this week, I'm going to get a little loose in that New York Giants team and how good I think they might be. But, yeah, Ben Roethlisberger, he was cold, but Roethlisberger's been playing the cold since he was a sperm. It's affecting. It's definitely affecting these guys without question. But you go to that shootout that was in Chicago between the Bears. It was a matter of matchup, and like I said, I'm still licking my wounds over the Tom Brady thing, having to play week 15, first week of the playoffs in the Standard League, bye week, 11-2 season, and you get thumped by a team that's just not even near your equal.
Man, I don't even want to talk about mine. I had Julio Jones, who obviously missed.
Bench.
I had Thomas Rawls that got a touchdown hawked, or 2 even, I think. I had fucking DeMarco Murray, who had 2 touchdowns hawked, and then obviously I needed 11 more yards to get the bonus. So there's 2 more points plus the 3, so there's 5. So there's 17 points I got hawked from Henry. So you start adding shit up as I had the points I needed, but, guys, again, what do you do?
Yeah, what do you do is you just grin and bear it, because that's what happens in the rough and tumble world of standard fantasy.
I'll be honest with you, though, I was really hoping to move on because I didn't realize it. I was, and I'm about to brag here, I was second in 2012, first in 2013, didn't do anything in 2014, took second in 2015, and now was 1 game away from being back. I was going to be the new Bayside Raiders. Here, and we're going to supplant the Raiders as the new Belichicks.
Yeah, well, I need to supplant myself as the new Belichicks, because every year I sniff it, it falls apart late as I'm turning into a choke artist. But, enough about you and I. Let's move on to class time here, and let's try to help some of our listeners as well as ourselves. As we mentioned, last week was a tough week for quarterbacks and quarterback matchups. This week's a tough week for running backs.
It is, but I didn't necessarily... I didn't feel like there was a lot of different choices, but the ones that I have, I feel pretty good about.
Okay.
Especially just with what we watched over the last weekend and whatnot. It's like anything. It's a crapshoot. I definitely don't feel as strong as last week, but I feel like we got a couple gems.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and pick our contest. Now, there is the Thursday night game. Thursday night game is New York Giants at the Philadelphia Eagles. That's Thursday, 8:25. We're going to skip that. That's not going to be part of our lineup here. So where do you want to start there, Harbor Mike? You want to jump into, like, Saturday at 1 o'clock onlys or Saturday at 1 o'clock main?
No, let's do the Sunday main.
Okay, it's Saturday this week.
Oh, yeah, Saturday main. I'm sorry.
Sure.
I really don't like the 1 o'clock games. The payouts and the amount of entries on those were really shitty. So what I like this week, I did the NFL Sunday main that has all the games, obviously, and then I did the 4 p.m. only, the 4:05 slot, and that the payouts are a lot better, $175,000 in prizes for that one.
Okay, well, let's get started on the Sunday main, the Saturday main this week. I picked a single entry one at $5. Top team payout is $10,000 to first place. This is a multi-entry, or this is a single entry. So these are the ones I really like. Single entry with a $10,000 payout to the winner for a $5 entry. That one's pretty sweet. But there's also 25,000 players in this contest, so keep that.
The way I'm going at it is because I've had such little luck with my quarterbacks. I'm going to try to use the roulette, and I'm building the template with all my other positions that are going to pretty much stay the same with different guys I'm going to stack and whatnot we talk about. But so I'm going to use a carousel of quarterbacks today if I'm allowed, and I'm going to do a lineup with Luck. My lineups are Andrew Luck's in one, Tom Brady's in one, Drew Brees is in one, and I wanted to talk to you, and I wanted to wait till we were online because. I'm more, I like possibly, it's a hit or miss I feel with Andrew Luck because of obviously Oakland's getting better. But he seems to be unstoppable this year as far as putting up fantasy points. But I don't know, what are your thoughts on that game? Because I thought it could be a high-scoring affair or another kind of like what we just saw. Because Oakland obviously has gotten a lot better on the other side of the ball.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think with Andrew Luck, you're on the money there because he has been, with the exception of the first couple weeks of the season when he had like a matchup against Denver. this guy's been pretty solid.